Hello there, this video will cover the easiest way to create multiple containers for Linux on a Chromebook. I will cover more methods for creating multiple containers in the future. For this example, I will be creating an Apache server. This is a Media Blitz format that will allow me to share topics faster and keep pace with frequently updated topics. My channel focuses on adding the power of Linux to your Android, Chromebook, or PC without the need to root or remove your system. Additionally, I cover cross-platform topics. My playlists are available from the homepage on my YouTube channel and are organized by operating system and cross-platform topics. To make it easier to follow along with my videos, I include the full written instructions in the pinned comment. So if you scroll down to the comments of the current video you are watching now, you will see the top pinned comment containing the written instructions. To see the whole comment, click on Read More. Any updates will be noted at the top of the pinned comment. Note that you can copy and paste the notes into a text file like I have here with the mousepad text editor. Or, if you're feeling fancy, we can copy and paste the notes into a TiddlyWiki notebook, also known as Flexible Offline Searchable Notes. Here, I pressed the backtick key from the top left of the keyboard so that there are 3 backticks before and after the text. This will apply monospaced block formatting. Keep in mind that you can modify the notes however you'd like, whether that's formatting, adding images, or changing what's in the notes. For more information on TiddlyWiki, I recommend watching my TiddlyWiki videos. That concludes the intro, now onward to the video. For this video, we will be using the GUI method for creating another Linux container on our Chromebook. Again, I will be covering other methods in the future. In order to create another container with the GUI method, we need to enable the Allow Multiple Crostini Containers flag. To do that, we can open the Chrome OS Chrome browser, and then go to chrome://flags. From here we can search for Crostini-multi. After that, we can click the drop-down next to Allow Multiple Crostini Containers and select Enabled. Once we've done that, we can click the Restart button from the bottom right to reboot our Chromebook. After our Chromebook has rebooted, we can create another container by opening the Terminal app. Then near the top right, we can click on Developer Settings. And then from here we can click on Manage Extra Containers. From here we can create, delete, backup, restore, and shut down individual containers. To create another container, we can click on the Create button. And then in the dialog that comes up, we can set up our container. Here we can set the container name to whatever we would like. For my example, I will be setting the container name to Apache because I will be using this container to run an Apache web server. Now if we set no other options and click on the Create button, this will download a new base container by default. This will also set the user ID in the container to be the email that's used on our Chromebook. Now to create a container based off of a backup file, we can click on the Advanced pull-down, and then click the Select File button. For this example, I will be using a backup of a fresh base container install. This will set the user ID to be the same one that I had set in that container. Once we have selected our backup file, we can click on the Open button, and then we can click on the Create button. To monitor the progress of the container being created, we can click on the notification near the bottom right shelf of our Chromebook. If it appears that the notification is stuck at a few seconds, then we can click the notification near the bottom right shelf of our Chromebook twice to see if there is a new notification. If there is a Restore Complete notification, then that means we have successfully created another container. To start up the container we just created, we can open the Terminal app. Then from the Terminal app, we can select the container we just created, which for my example is Apache. And then we can wait for the container to start up. Now we are running a new container on our Chromebook. Now I'm going to go over an example of setting up an Apache web server in a container. Now to set up an Apache web server, we can first execute sudo space apt space update space -y. This will update the software index list. Here I did Ctrl-L to clear the terminal so it's easier to see what I'm typing. After that, we can execute sudo space apt space dist-upgrade space -y. This will upgrade already installed packages. Finally, we can execute sudo space apt space install space apache2 space -y. This will install the Apache HTTP web server. Now that we have Apache installed, we can check the status of Apache by executing sudo space systemctl space status space apache2. Here we can see the Apache server is already active and running. To exit out of the systemctl display, we can press the Q key. In order to access the Apache web server outside of this container, we will need to know the IP address of the container. To do that, we can execute IP space A. Then in the output next to inet, we will see the IP address of the container. Note that highlighting text in the terminal app will automatically copy the text. For more about IP addresses, I recommend my Linux network tips video, which will be linked in the pinned comment. One way we can access the Apache web server is by opening the Chrome OS Chrome browser, and then in the URL we can paste the container's IP address. Once we've done that, we can press enter and we should see the Apache 2 Debian default page. Here we can see the Apache web server is working. In addition to that, we can also access the Apache web server from another Linux container. To do that, we can go back to the terminal app. Then from the terminal app, we can go back to the first tab from the top left. And from here we can start up another container. For this example, I will be starting up the Penguin container. From here we can wait a moment or two for the container to start up. Now because we cannot directly paste text that we have copied outside of the Linux desktop, I will be creating a text file in the terminal app where we can paste the IP address we copied earlier. Then when we start up a desktop, we can copy the IP address from the text file. To do that, we can execute echo space the IP address we used to access the Apache web server. To paste text into the terminal app, we can do Ctrl-Shift-V on our keyboard. Then after that, we can type space right angle bracket space the name we would like to give the text file. For my example, I will be naming the file A for Apache. This will put our IP address into a text file. Once we've done that, we can execute ls to list the files and folders in the current directory. And from here we can see the text file we created. An easy way we can view the text file from a terminal is by executing cat space the name of the text file. So now we have verified that we created a text file that contains the other container's IP address. Now that we've done that, we can start up our desktop. Once our desktop has started up, we can open a terminal, and then we can execute cat space the name of the text file that contains the other container's IP address. Once we've done that, we can highlight the IP address, and then we can do Ctrl-Shift-C to copy it. After that, we can open a browser. For my example, I will be using the Firefox browser. Now for the URL, we can paste the IP address and press enter. And again, we should see the Apache 2 Debian default page. For Firefox-related tips including developer tools and browser automation, I recommend watching my video that covers Firefox tips and tricks. I will have that video linked in the pinned comment. To shut down a Linux container, we can go back to the Manage Extra Container settings. After that, we can click the three-dot menu next to the container that we want to shut down, and select Stop this container. If all the containers are shut down, then we can also close out of the terminal app. Note that we can click on the container name for more options. And for funsies, we can change the badge color to whatever we would like. Here I'm making the badge color for the Apache container red just because I can. If a container is running, we will also see the container's IP address from here. Keep in mind, we can create as many containers as desired as long as the resources of our Chromebook can handle it. For example, we can have multiple containers running their own Apache web server. To do that, we can first back up the Apache container by clicking the three-dot menu to the right of the container, and select Backup. Note that we can also restore an individual container from the three-dot menu. Now to back up the container, we can choose where to save the file and set the file name. For my example, I'm just going to start the file name with Apache, and after that we can click on the Save button. From here we can wait a few moments for the container to back up. Like before, we can monitor the progress of the backup by clicking on the notification from the bottom right shelf of the Chromebook. And again, if it looks like the backup is stuck at the last few seconds, we can click the notification from the bottom shelf twice to see if there is a new notification. If there is a backup complete notification, then that means we have successfully backed up the container. Now we can create another container based off of the backup we just created by clicking on the Create button, and from here we can set the container name. For my example, I will be naming the container Apache 2. After that, we can click the Advanced pull-down, click the Select File button, and then select the backup file we just created. Once we have selected the file, we can click on the Open button, and then we can click on the Create button. When that's done, I am once again going to click the notification from the bottom right twice to see the new notification. Here I can see the restore is complete, which means we have made another container. So if we open the terminal app, we should see our new container. Like before, we can start up the container by clicking on the container name, and then we can wait a few moments for the container to start up. Here I have demonstrated that we can really go as bananas as we want with the containers as long as the Chromebook can handle it. To delete a container, we can click the three-dot menu to the right of the container we want to delete, and then we can select Delete this container. Here I'm just deleting the extra Apache containers that I created. Next, I am going to show how to access an Apache server from another device that is connected to the same network as our Chromebook. We can do that by using the IP address of the Chromebook outside of the Linux containers and the port number that the Apache server is listening with. My Linux network tips video will be linked in the pinned comment if you are interested in Linux network tips that include ports. For this example, I will be showing how to change the port that the Apache server is using to port 8080. This will make it so that we can also access the Apache server from an Android. To change the port that the Apache server is using, we will need to edit 2 of the Apache configuration files. To do that, we can first execute cd /etc/apache2. This will take us to the /etc/apache2 file path. After that, we can execute ls. This will list the files and folders of the current directory we are in. Here we are going to edit the ports.conf file. To do that, we will first execute sudo cp ports.conf ports.conf.bak. This will create a copy of the ports.conf file, and it will be named ports.conf.bak. This will give us something to go back to in case we need it. After that, we can do sudo nano ports.conf. This will open the ports.conf file with the nano text editor. From here we can change the number in the line listen 80 so that it's listen 8080. In the comments at the top of the file, we can see that if we change the ports like we did, then we will likely also have to change the virtual host statement in the 000-default.conf file. When we are done editing the ports.conf file, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save the file and exit Nano. Next, we are going to edit the 000-default.conf file. To do that, we will first execute cd sites-enabled. This will take us into the sites-enabled folder. From here we can do ls to list the files and folders in the current directory. Here we can see the 000-default.conf file. First, we will make a copy of the file by executing sudo space cp space 000-default.conf space 000-default.conf.bak. So now we have something to go back to in case we need it. After that, we can do sudo space nano space 000-default.conf. This will open the 000-default.conf file with the nano text editor. From here, in the first line inside the starting virtual host tag, we will change 80 to 8080. Once we've done that, we can do Ctrl-O, Enter, and Ctrl-X to save the file and exit nano. Since we are using a Chromebook, we also need to open port 8080 for the Apache container so that it is available to other devices that are connected to the same network as the Chromebook. To do that, we can go back to the first tab from the top left of the terminal app, then click on Developer Settings near the top right, and from here we can click on Port Forwarding. To open a port, we can click on the Add button. Then from the dialog that comes up, we can set the port number to 8080. After that, we can click the Container dropdown and select the Apache container. Lastly, if we would like, we can give the port a label. For my example, I will be labeling the port Apache. When we are done doing that, we can click on the Add button. Now, in order to apply the changes we made to the configuration files earlier, we need to restart the container that is running Apache. To do that, we can go back a page in Settings, click on Manage Extra Containers, then click the three-dot menu for the container that is running Apache, and select Stop this container. After that, we can start the container back up by going back to the terminal app, and then start the Apache container. Any ports we opened for a container will automatically be disabled when the container is shut down. To re-enable it, we can go back to our settings, then go back a page, click on Port Forwarding, and for the port we added, we can toggle it back on. Now that we are ready to access the Apache web server from a remote device, we just need the IP address of the Chromebook instead of the container's IP address. To get the IP address of the Chromebook from Chrome OS settings, we can click on Network from the list on the left side. Then from Network, we can click on Wi-Fi. Then click the Wi-Fi network that the Chromebook is connected to. And from here we can see the Chromebook's IP address. For my example, I will be accessing the Apache web server from an Android device. Remember, the Chromebook and the other device we are using to access the Apache server need to be connected to the same network. Now from the remote device, we can open a browser. Then from the top of the browser for the URL, we can type in the Chromebook's IP address, followed by :8080. Note the :8080 represents port 8080. Once we've typed that in, we can press Enter and we should see the default page for Apache. We have now successfully accessed an Apache web server from a remote device. For more information about Apache, we can go to httpd.apache.org. Here we can get documentation, notes about new releases, and more. In addition to that, we can install the Apache documentation. To install the documentation, I will be using Synaptic Package Manager. To open Synaptic, we can go to the menu, and in the Preferences category, we can click on Synaptic Package Manager. When Synaptic opens, we can click on the Reload button from the top left to update the list of available software. When Synaptic is done reloading, we can click on the Search button from the top right, and then we can search by name for Apache 2. From here we can right-click on Apache 2-doc, select Mark for Installation, And then we can click on the Mark button for the additional required changes. Now in order to only install the documentation, we need to unmark all the additional packages that are marked for installation. To do that, we can first right-click on Apache 2, select Unmark, then click the Mark button. We are then going to repeat this for all the other packages that are marked for installation except for the documentation. So we can right-click on Apache 2-bin, select Unmark, then right-click on Apache 2-data, and select Unmark. After that, we can scroll down a little and right-click on Apache 2-utils, and select Unmark. Finally, we can click on the Search button from the top right, search by name for libapr, then we can right-click on libapr1, and select Unmark. Now if we click on Apache 2 from our previous searches on the left, we should only have Apache 2-doc marked for installation. To verify that, we can click on the Apply button near the top left, then click the To Be Installed dropdown and only Apache 2-doc should be listed so that we only get the documentation. If any other package is listed, search for the package and unmark it. Now to install the documentation, we can click on the Apply button. When that's done installing, we can click on the Close button in the Changes Applied window. To find out where the documentation is located, we can right-click on Apache 2-doc, select Properties, and then in the window that comes up, we can go to the Installed Files tab. We can also make the window full screen so it's easier to see the full file paths. Documentation will typically be located in the /usr/share/doc file path. So we can highlight and copy the /usr/share/doc/apache 2-doc file path. And then after that, we can open a browser and then paste the file path into the URL. Once we've done that, we can press Enter. From here we can go into the manual folder. Then from here we can select our language. After that, we can scroll down and click on the index.html file, which will take us to the main page for the documentation. I recommend bookmarking the page for convenience so we don't have to find it again. So now we have an offline form of the documentation. The documentation for Debian-specific changes and configurations are in a text file. To get to that, we can go to the container that has the Apache server, and then we can first execute cd /usr/share/doc/apache2. This will take us to the /usr/share/doc/apache2 file path. From here we can execute ls to list the files and folders in the current directory. The text file with the documentation is in the readme.debian.gz file. To move the file outside of the container, we can first copy it to the home directory of this container by executing sudo cp in all capital letters readme.debian starting with a capital D.gz ~. This will copy the file to the home directory. After that, we can open the Chrome OS Files app, go into the files for the container that's running Apache, select the readme.debian.gz file and do Ctrl+C to copy it. Then from there we can go back to My Files and go into the Linux Files folder. This folder contains the files from the Penguin container. From here we can do Ctrl+V to paste the file. Now from the container we copied the text file to, we can open a terminal, and we can first execute ls to list the files and folders. Here we should see the readme.debian.gz file. To unzip the file, we can execute 7z x the file name. Here I highlighted the name of the file and then I did Ctrl+Shift+C to copy it, and then I did Ctrl+Shift+V to paste it. After we execute that, we can do ls again and we should see the readme.debian text file. To view the text file from a terminal, we can execute cat in all capital letters readme.debian starting with a capital D pipe less. From here we can scroll by using the up and down arrow keys. When we are done viewing the file, we can press the Q key. Lastly, there is also an Apache GUI. I will have a link to an article in the pinned comment that goes into more detail. Companion books to my series of videos are available. I will have those linked in the pinned comment. And that's all for this video, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon!